People have told me that I've lived an interesting life and that I should write down some of my stories and I should tell some of my stories. So I've started doing that. So the first story that I'm going to tell you is about the time I nearly killed my wife on our honeymoon. All right. It's story time. It is mid-May of 2008 when my wife and I got married. You see, we were in college still. I was broke, but I was able to scrape together enough money with the help of my parents to go on a honeymoon to a little town of Akumal at a little resort, all inclusive. I thought I had it taken care of. But one of my first things I learned about my wife is that she does not sit idle. She asks what else we were going to do besides be at the resort, to which I didn't have anything else planned. And she, at this point, knew about my financial state, and we ended up having to transfer money from her account to my account in the wee hours of the morning before we hopped on our plane. We make it to our resort, and we have a great trip. We get to go explore some underground caves, and we get to go floating in those. We get to go zip lining, go look at Mayan ruins. It was a splendid vacation. It was a splendid honeymoon. And another thing that we tacked on that was going to be a fairly inexpensive day was going to be a day of cruising the island of Cozumel. And so we took the local taxi and rode up to Playa del Carmen and rode the ferry across to Cozumel. And we get there and we rent our scooter. I am not a great motorcycle rider. I can ride a bicycle fine. But my only motorbike experience has been a 49cc Suzuki scooter that didn't have any brakes. And I don't even think all 49cc's were really getting you much there. And so I was young though, and filled with overconfidence. And so we go cruise the backside of the island. It was great. Straight from the rental place, I think it was Enterprise, we cruise the backside of the island and just have a blast. And the thing, had plenty of pep and get up and go, and just had a blast, just wind in our hair, taking in the ocean sights and some of the coral reefs and just having a fun time. But then that time ended. We looped back around the island and we entered back into the main city there, and it was busy. There was just a ton of people all around. They had kind of a motorbike lane, and it was about the width of your handlebars that you went down, and then the cars were packed in as well, and so some of them were kind of weaving their mirrors, and it was just a lot. And my overconfidence quickly turned into a lack of confidence, because I'm like, wait a second, I don't know what I'm doing. This is scaring me too much. And so I'm like, we gotta go, let's just go return it and just enjoy the rest of our afternoon before we ride the ferry back to the mainland. And so we head down a side street that I think is going to get us to the gas station. See, it was before smartphones had really taken off. I didn't have one. We were in an international country. I just had the map that they gave me when I got to the island. That was it. And so I kind of knew where I needed to go. And so we started heading towards it. And we hit this kind of T intersection, and I need to make a left turn onto this. And it's still a kind of busy street. And so I set myself up to go. And so I'm just trying to find my gap. And I go for it. The gap comes up and I'm like, just go for it. And then I don't turn. See, what happens is Jess is on the back of the bike. I don't know what I'm doing. And we just end up doing a little bit of a wheelie. And so no steering when you do a wheelie. And so we just kind of went straight. We didn't turn, we went straight. And we hit the curb. I remember over on this side was a payphone, and over on this side was a delivery truck. that I feel like I could have touched both. And then we come landing down. Of course, then we go sideways. Me being absolutely freaked out, I still hold on to the bike as we're going and drag to a stop behind it as Jess is now on top of me as we're just skidding across the ground. So we crash land in a parking lot and we get up. And first thing that I'm concerned about is, did I just like injure my wife? My wife of only a few days at this point, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, oh. And then the next thought goes into, is the bike okay? Now, remember how I said I wasn't financially good or solvent or prudent at the time? Well, yeah, I'd used a maxed out credit card as my deposit. There's no money in the account to handle this sort of catastrophe, and I'm kind of freaking out because I go check out the bike right away. I have to make sure it's okay, and I pulled up. It looks mostly okay, but there's like definitely some good scratching on the one side, and I'm just super just bummed at myself, just mad at myself, and I turn around to kind of give that look to Jess of just like, I can't believe I just did this, and because she's okay, but when I look back at her, she kind of has this look of like slight horror on her face as she's looking down, and she's not looking at my face, she's looking down at my knee, and then alternating between my left toe and my right knee, and my left toe and my right knee, and I had completely skinned off my knee, and I was made aware of that before even looking down, because all of a sudden, as things quiet down and now you think about it, I could feel the blood cooling on my leg as it dripped down, and I'm like, oh no, and I'm kind of scared, but I look down, lift up my shorts, and sure enough, like I'm just bleeding, like it's not like it's gushing, but like it looks pretty bad, and I'm like, oh, great, like, oh gosh, like the financial issues, and now like I'm hurt, and like what are we gonna do? Like, oh, this is just crazy. And so I'm kind of in a bit of despair, but then we look up and we see where we landed. In front of a pharmacy. I kid you not. We landed in front of a pharmacy. And so we go inside. Now I've kind of all of a sudden become a little more optimistic, because I'm like, okay, this is good. This is good. Jess knows Spanish, and like I know a little bit of first aid, so between the two of us, we should be able to get this figured out. Well, we go in, and it's all these white label boxes with Spanish medical terms on them. And that's one thing that Jess never covered. And since there's no pictures, I was no good. But fortunately, the clerk, the attendant there at the pharmacy, she came right out. She started helping us. She found some peroxide and some gauze and some cleaning supplies and started working on me, sat me down on a stool. And we're going in, and I'm like, okay, all right, like, yeah, we'll deal with it. As I'm sitting there, kind of taking it in, from behind us, I kind of hear this, well, you just crash landed next to the Blue Cross too. And just this guy standing in the door with, I remember this cheeky grin, and dressed up in an EMT uniform, and I'm like, what? He's like Blue Cross emergency care next door. Like, come with me, I'll help you out. And so I'm just kind of like, what? And as I look over, I see the pharmacy clerk attendant. She's like, yeah, like, go with him, like nodding for me to go. And so Jess stayed back, and she dealt with the financial stuff, the paying for the goods that we'd used. And then I went over to the Blue Cross, which was literally right next door. And so he takes me in there, takes me down a hallway to a little like emergency care room. They proceed to clean me up really well and put ointment on there and check on things. They clean up my toe, give me a little baggie full of like a few things, some ointment and an extra set of bandages. And so we get out into the hallway, and we have to go to this little payment window to go in. I'm like, oh great, I just had emergency care in Mexico. What is this going to cost? Turns out it's just a few dollars. And it's, what? Only a few dollars? Like maybe $10 between that and the supplies, and oh my goodness, like that's great news, And so we walk out there, but then we're confronted with the fact that we just wrecked a scooter, and now we have to drive that scooter to still get gas and to return it. And so I look at it, and I'm like, oh. Look at Jess briefly, And she's like, no, I'm not gonna drive that thing. I was like, okay. So we get back on it, go just down the street to the gas station. We fill up, and then we head back to the rental place, which is just a few blocks away. And so we pull into this alleyway that's right next to it, and kind of dust myself off, and I hike down my shorts as much as possible. Jess stays in the alleyway while I go return it. And then at this point, like, the soreness is kind of setting in. Like, I just landed pretty hard on the pavement, and my leg was definitely pretty sore, and I was definitely limping. And so I did my best to walk through my limp and not show that I was injured, and to return, and then, hike down my shorts and try not to bring any attention to my toe that has a big bandage on it now. And I walk it up the ramp into the thing, and of course, like, the same guy who helped me out is the one to receive it back. And I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. Here's what's going to go down. So he goes in, and he checks to one side, and as he comes around, he flips over the little chart he has, and on there it shows what was damaged, and he had circled the entire side of the bike before I'd taken it out, because there's already some existing damage. There's already existing damage on that side. So he just moved on, grabbed the bike, asked me how it was. I said, a little more power than I expected, and yeah, great time. Never forget it. And he takes it and returns it back into the back of the thing. And then I walk out, and I'm just looking at just like, it was fine. Like, there's no problems. And then we go finish out our afternoon like we planned, although it was a little slower, a lot more sitting than we'd planned on. And then we get back, and fortunately we only had like a day left in our trip anyway, so we were able to just take it easy, relax. And then as we're getting back into the States, so we fly in, I think we're in Texas, where we connected and turn on our phones and messaging people. My sister-in-law, so Jess's twin sister, I told her, I'm like, well, a weekend and I almost killed your sister. And she's like, oh, great, what'd she do? And I'm like, no, it's what I did, And so then, anyway, so that's where I almost killed my wife on our honeymoon. That's one story of many. Many of you have been excited for some of the stories about me growing up off-grid, and just kind of the curiosities of life that brings. So you can expect to see more of those coming soon. As long as this quarantine stuff is going on, I will try my best to upload content like this to help keep you entertained. But that's the story for today, and until next time, see you later.